This is the heartbeat of human services, a peek into the inspiring stories of our community and all things DHS. Join us.
Hey there, everybody. I'm your host, Janice Slagle, for the podcast, The Heartbeat of Human Services. And today, our guest is the Honorable Judge Louie Vega, who's retired. But we are so happy to have you here today, Judge Vega. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm glad to see you're still involved in the program.
I love it. So June is Family Reunification Month. And so that's why we invited you, because you started that in Kern County. So we want to talk about that. But before we do, I just think that your history and your journey to get where you are now is so fascinating. And so I read, so first just tell us, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in two places. Initially, in the area where I was born is Hollister, California, which is north of here.
Yeah.
And because we lived on a ranch and there wasn't any way to get to school, I ended up moving in with my grandparents, my mother's parents, in Gilroy. And so I actually started school there. And so I grew up between living on the ranch and living in the, even though it was a small town, it was in the town, and we could walk a couple of blocks to school from there.
And then I read, and I'm not trying to skip too far, but you then joined the military at some point in there. Is that right?
Right. A year after I graduated from high school, I enlisted in the Army.
Okay.
And so that started a different aspect of my life.
Journey, right?
From the rural Hollister, Gilroy, we moved when I was in elementary school.
Okay.
To Southern California. My father got a job working in construction, actually installing what they call terrazzo floors.
Okay.
And almost, actually, my father worked,
really
helped build the courthouse I worked in at 1215 Truxton. Yes. His company he worked for put those in. So that's how I ended up in LA area in Southern California in the San Gabriel Valley. And the guys I went to high school with, little streak of us that graduated in 1966, by the way. They were very patriotic, gung-ho guys, and they enlisted, and I was a year younger than everybody I went to school with, so I had to wait a year.
So that was the 60s during Vietnam.
Yeah, with the height of the buildup.
And
while some people were protesting, there was crazy guys like me that actually enlisted. And then I ended up being a helicopter crew chief.
Okay.
In Vietnam in January of 1968. So
right in the thick of it.
Right in the.
So you were fixing the helicopters when things went wrong and that kind of thing, or keeping them.
We maintained them. I was a crew chief, so we maintained them. The real heavy duty repair work, rebuilding work. We made sure they were up to flight capabilities, and I flew in the backs of as a door gunner. So I was on board.
That's a pretty important job, as helicopters were used a lot during Vietnam, weren't they? Yeah.
We were scouts.
Okay.
So we would assist the infantry units and scout units on the ground, and we would be assisted by gunships flying overhead. And so our job was to locate positions, and we found somebody, we'd drop smoke, and then the gunships would come in and shoot up the area, and then we'd go back in and see if they hit something.
So, and how did you, I know I read that you got a Purple Heart.
Right.
And so tell us just briefly, how did that happen, or how did you do that?
We were on assignment in the area of operation in the Hydrang Valley, in a little area called Polyclang. And while we were on our scouting mission, we came across a campsite. It wasn't an Army, or U.S. Army campsite anyway. It was an NVA. And when we went back to circle back to make sure that we had seen what we thought we had seen, and we got shot at, and the aircraft became disabled, and we crashed. None of us obviously were killed, but we were injured, and we were able to run to safety and hide out until we could get rescued from that.
That must have been kind of a scary moment, huh?
It was one of those yeah, I think I've learned my lesson. Can I go home now? Moments, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I still had another 9 months to do. So
Wow.
it
Well,
was,
I thought that was important to talk about because I read that was part of later in your life how it really motivated you to feel like you wanted to make a difference, right?
you
It
know,
was a big
uh, that, and then some of the guys I served with who didn't come back,
Mhm.
and one of my friends who's become very disabled, and we both
Mhm.
made it back, but I was fortunate enough to go visit him along with my wife, visit with him, and we were able to enjoy some time together. And he actually saved my life in a way that he was had higher rank than me, and he said, "Hey, I'm taking your place today on this mission," and he ended up getting severely
Mm.
wounded.
Wow.
And he was experienced enough to be able to tell the pilot, "You've got about 30 seconds to land this ship before our rotor seizes up, the transmission freezes up," because he had all this transmission fluid was spewing out right onto him. And
Mm.
but anyway, he had been reported killed in action, but turned out he did survive it. And we maintained
Oh,
contact.
that's
Got a
good.
picture with him holding Raquel when she was a little baby.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so went to go see him. And
You stay connected.
he lives in Rhode Island. Jim
Okay.
Earhart. He was a
Okay.
real hero, and among others, but he was a real hero and
Wow.
somebody you
That's
stay
nice.
connected to.
It's nice to honor those
But
folks.
when you survive something like that, and I'm
Mhm.
sure other veterans, Vietnam, Iraqi, Afghanistan veterans, you survive something like that, you, at least from my perspective, try to figure out why me, and not,
Mhm.
why wasn't I one of those other guys whose names are on the wall?
Right.
And you want to do something meaningful
Yeah.
to make it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's that scene in those of you who've seen Saving Private Ryan,
Mhm.
where where he's the captain, as he's dying, he said, "Make this
Yeah.
worthwhile."
Right.
You
And
know,
and you certainly have done a lot of things to make a difference. So we thank you for that.
all right.
So then when you came back, I'm sure there was a little bit of a transition time for you. What did you do when you
Well,
first?
when I got back, and what I really enjoyed growing up in the LA area was listening to rock and roll.
Oh, okay.
And back when I was young, you had real competition between the stations: KFWE, KRLA, KHJ. There's a lot of. It was one of those things where I said, you know what, that's what I really want to do. And so I went to broadcasting school. And after I finished broadcasting school, I worked in a factory in the meantime, Clayton Manufacturing. And so when I finished the school, although I wanted to be a rock and roll DJ, that was the thing back in 1970, 71. I had a call. They said, "There's a job, but it's not as in radio, it's in television in Bakersfield, doing news reporting." And I'm thinking, okay, well, if it gets my foot in the door, I'll do it. So
And that was for KERO, right?
KERO,
Okay.
and they hired me as a trainee, and it was a great
Wow.
learning experience
I'll
for me.
bet. Gained a lot of skills.
Exactly.
And then, so what did you stay in that for a couple of years?
I stayed in that. I left it full time in 1977.
Okay.
So in the meantime, I got my undergrad degree
At CSUB, right?
at CSUB.
Okay.
I took a couple classes at BC, and my actual first college credit ever was from College of William and Mary.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
When I was in the Army, I took an extension course. We were right next to Williamsburg. I was at Fort Eustis, Virginia.
Beautiful area. Yeah.
Oh,
I am. I visited that, and I actually wanted to go to school there at one time, but
oh,
ended up going to San Diego State. But yeah, that's a beautiful area. And then from there, what did you became a teacher at some point? I'm not
right.
sure where that was in the journey, but
Right. I had previously been married. Well, I got married after I moved here. I met my late first wife, and we both got into education. I decided to get my teaching credential, so I got a secondary teaching credential I taught at the Kern High School District. But while I was in undergrad, I got involved with some students who were into law.
Okay.
And
That's
I had
where
never
that
even,
started.
the thought had never entered my mind to go into law up
Okay.
until that point. And that's one of the good things about education.
Right.
It broadens your horizon. And so there were a handful of students that were determined to be lawyers. And I saw that I was able to stay up with them, so to speak. And we went on a couple of field trips. And so thereafter, even though I'd gotten my teaching credential,
That was your
it was one of those
direction.
things I would say someday, I should go to
Uh-huh.
law school and all this. And then finally somebody said, do it or quit talking about it.
There you
Because,
go. Yeah, we need those people to tell us that
yeah,
sometimes.
let's get.
So you started doing the law school, and were you motivated because you liked standing up for people?
Well, as a reporter, you got to see the community. I was a great introduction to this community, meeting the
bet.
leaders and then the people that were the day-to-day people that you go and get involved in their lives, you tell
Mhm.
their stories. And so it was always an aspect of being part of the community and helping. And that was the same with education, counseling kids, teaching
Guiding.
kids.
Mhm.
It was just one of those things as I said earlier, as your experiences, lead to other experiences, and
Yeah.
education broadens your ability to
Right.
do certain things.
Yeah.
And so when it came to law school, I finally said, okay, I'm going to do it. I applied, and I was very fortunate to get into a good school. But when I was in the high school district, I got appointed to at that time was called the Desegregation Task Force, headed by Don Murphin and Bill Hatcher. And that's when there was turmoil all over the country with busing and all these,
Mhm.
you saw it on the news almost every night. It was almost competing with the Vietnam War, as far as coverage. But he showed us, at least my experience was, to see how you analyze the problem. And here's what the law requires, and how we're going to meet the law and keep peace in the community and achieve the goal. The law said we could not have segregated schools.
Okay.
So
that's
we had to,
interesting.
and so we had to
That's the
find the
integration.
common
Mhm.
goal and find a way to weave people's contending interests and make them the whole community's interests.
I love that. That's
Thanks.
interesting. So
Right.
that was kind of your beginning, that's being on that committee sort of gave you the law, and then you learned how to work together. And then from that, and that was through the Kern High School
That was
District.
through the Kern High School District,
Okay.
and that was
your journey into that. So then from there, you went to law school?
I went to law school.
Okay. And then, and did you go to law school somewhere locally in LA?
I went to UCLA.
Okay, you went to UCLA.
Right.
And I know you're on different committees with the Latinos and helping different
Right. I was
programs there.
I
That's
was
great.
involved with what they called the Latino or Chicano Law Review. I was the editor-in-chief. I also got to spend a semester with Judge Norris in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So I got to
Lot of
see how
exposure.
cases matriculate
Mhm.
upwards from the trial court level up to the appellate court, and how cases are analyzed and decisions are made.
So then and then you passed the bar
Right.
and you became a practicing attorney in Bakersfield?
No, I actually stayed in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I worked for a firm that did redevelopment law.
Oh.
It was really difficult
Interesting.
finding a job after law school. At that time,
At that
the
time in the
economy
70s.
wasn't as strong as it is
Mhm.
now, although we have issues different now than then. But in any event, I got a job working with this firm, and one of our clients was Bakersfield, as a matter of fact. But we represented
City.
redevelopment agencies all over the state, and I think even in Arizona.
I'm your host, Allison, and I'm interrupting today's podcast to highlight positions available at Kern DHS. Today's positions are extra help. Extra help are positions that can last up to 2 years. If you're looking for something temporary or a position that can help launch your county career, we highly recommend applying. The following positions are available: Extra Help Office Service Technician, multiple locations. Extra Help Social Services Worker, Ridgecrest. Extra Help Utility Worker. Extra Help Admin Coordinator. Extra Help Building Service Worker. Extra Help Maintenance Worker. Extra Help Eligibility Worker, multiple locations. Extra Help Group Counselor. Apply online today at kerncounty.com under the Careers tab. Thank you for listening, and now back to the podcast.
But Los Angeles was our primary client. So all the downtown Los Angeles was a redevelopment project.
Okay.
Bunker Hill and all that.
Yeah.
Everything you see was developed through redevelopment law. But then I ended up coming back to Bakersfield,
Okay.
and I was in the public defender's office.
Okay.
I did criminal law and defense, and then I was asked to join one of our local firms and did civil work. And while maintaining my license, I went back and taught high school one more year
Okay.
at East High
All
from
right.
88, 89, and then I went practice for myself. And an opening came up on the bench.
And that was
Back then we had-
2008, right?
that's when I was appointed as a judge. But in 1990, I was first elected by the municipal court. Back then, we had a municipal court.
Mm-hmm.
Municipal court judges appointed me commissioner.
Okay.
So I was a commissioner,
Okay.
municipal court commissioner, and then a superior court commissioner from 1990 through 2008.
Okay. So 2008 is when you were appointed by the
Right.
governor to do juvenile court, right?
Well, I was appointed to Superior Court,
Superior
and
Court.
When I applied, part of my essay, my application essay, kind of like when we go to college, but I said I would like to work in juvenile court.
And in part because of how you grew up, and
Yes,
you
yeah,
thought maybe you would understand their
exactly.
background, right?
Yeah.
Did you do 602s too, or the delinquency?
I started
court?
out doing the 601, 602,
yeah.
the delinquency, and then that's when Judge Anspaugh retired. I then moved up into his court
Dependency.
and took over or learned how to do dependency law.
Okay.
So
And so from 2008 till you just retired in 2021?
right, but for
2020.
2008 through the end of 2008, December of 2008 is when I officially was appointed to or assigned to go out there. And so until December of 2018.
Okay.
So about a 10-year period.
Okay.
Uh,
And I know I've been in your courtroom before as a social worker too,
right.
but I know that in 2014, you really brought the idea to our department that it was important to celebrate families who reunified, right? That was
Right.
your...
Well, I had read an article. I don't know if it was in The Bench, which is a magazine that caters to or produced for judges, or the Daily Journal. Anyway, it was one of the legal journals. I read about a celebration in, I think it was Santa Clara County. And I said, what a neat idea. And so we used to have our meetings, I forget what they were called.
For National Adoption Day, or
No, when we used to,
in the courtroom,
right.
Yeah, what were those called? They had some funny acronym.
yeah, but
I don't
anyway, we
remember.
would
Yeah.
meet, on Mondays
Mm-hmm.
and go over things. And I remember raising that as
Yeah.
a topic. And luckily, your department and CASA through Colleen Magali
Mm-hmm.
went with the idea. And my intention was to celebrate the families reunifying, but to also recognize everyone that participated in, because
the process of that.
the whole it is a
Yeah,
process.
it's a
Here's
team.
the goal,
Right.
kind of what we were doing back in 1978 and 79 when I was on the desegregation task force.
Mm-hmm.
We had a goal. How do we get everybody together to meet that goal?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the legislature says our dependency law is geared for reunifying families,
Right,
keeping the families
absolutely.
together until you get to that one point along the process, unfortunately, where we have to make some hard calls.
Yeah.
But the whole idea was, in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
let's give recognition to the families that struggled
Right.
and met their goal. And let's recognize the people that helped them along the way,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was through public agency work,
Right.
through volunteer work,
Mm-hmm.
and the other players, other
Right.
participants, the counselors that
Mm-hmm.
we have, the drug counseling and therapeutic counseling, and for the children.
Yeah.
They need the counseling they get and the help
Right.
they get.
And even the attorneys too. They're
Exactly.
part of the
And
process.
I should have said that,
Absolutely.
obviously, but you have a dedicated core of attorneys
Mm-hmm.
that have the goal, or they're representing the minors, or
Mhm.
they're representing one of the parents,
Right.
or both, each parent that has their own attorney. It's a very complex system.
It is.
I mean,
It
the goal
is.
is pretty set out there. It's pretty clear what the goal is, but getting there
Mm-hmm.
requires multiple steps and multiple buy-ins along the way. And if somebody falls out, then we have to adjust and adapt to the new situation. And
Right.
maybe you start out with two parents, but you only end up with one.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes whatever it is, but you get the children back with the parent, because the children want, as you know,
Right.
through
They
your own
want to be with
experience
their parents.
and training, children want to be with their parents
Yes.
regardless.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some of the parents, just for whatever reasons, as we know,
Mm-hmm. Doesn't always happen, does
it doesn't always happen. And you
really want
laid
it
out
to.
the road for them. And I
Yeah.
know when I used to do the initial hearing, I would say to each parent, or the only parent, if that was a single parent home,
Mm-hmm.
I said, our goal is for you to have your case terminated successfully. That means your kids are with you. You were no longer in your lives.
Right.
So that's success.
Yeah, absolutely. So the statistics show now, for our department at least, approximately 55% are reunifying,
Wow.
which is good. We'd like to see it
Well,
higher,
of course,
but
but
that's
that's
good,
quite,
isn't it?
it
We're
is.
getting there. And I think a lot of the different things like the child and family team meetings we have now, those are helping. So we're
Right.
all on the same page.
Exactly.
And then, like you said, there's so many partners involved. There's the drug counseling, and there's, help with anger management and mental health for the children. And
Right.
it's
Right.
such a team to get there. But I love that you presented the idea to our department, because prior to that, I think we really celebrated adoption, which should be celebrated.
Exactly.
But really that happens when families aren't able to reunify.
Right.
And so the other side of it is really our first goal should be to reunify. Absolutely. So I love that you brought that to us. And we did have, I think you and I were talking about the first one we had in the actual outside the courtroom area. We had one at the courthouse, the first one, right?
The
Little
first one was
celebration.
in Department J3.
Department J3. We had cake. I remember we had cake and punch
And
or
you know
something
what?
like that.
One of the things that comes to mind is, I think we had like 6 or 7 parents at that time.
Mhm.
It started small,
Right.
but I remember calling them all back into our conference room, and I said, look, up till now, your cases have been confidential. And if you don't want anyone in the community to know you've been through this process,
That's up
please,
to you. Huh?
this is your time to opt out. There'll be nobody will say anything, but you need to know we've got media out there, and
Mhm.
people are going to see your faces, and they may not have known you were, you had been in this situation before.
Mhm.
And I can remember one of the parents saying, I'm proud that we were able to do this. I am anyway. And the other ones bought into it. And I said, well, you can be a role model. You can be a community role model.
Exactly.
And you can tell people that it's not a
It's
black
possible.
hole.
Right.
People
can
do
do it.
emerge, and they do
Yes.
emerge whole
Stronger. Yes.
together and stronger.
Right.
So
That's great that you and I know even when we were trying to find people to talk to us about their stories,
Yeah.
some people don't want to share that, which I
Exactly.
completely understand. Like you
Yes.
said, it's your story, but
yeah,
we did have someone who shared his story, and his message was really, if you're open and honest and you don't blame anyone, you can do this.
that's difficult.
It is difficult.
That takes introspection,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes maturity, because you made a mistake. Yes,
Yeah.
you made a mistake. I made a mistake. I don't know.
It's hard to admit that for all of us,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, especially when it is connected to our children. That's even more like there's a little bit of shame people feel,
Sure.
But we hope in 2023 we can have another live celebration, and maybe you'll come join us again. But I think it means a lot to those families to have the judges say, "We're proud of you. You did it." And that's important for them.
And when I left the juvenile court, Judge Marquez took over.
Mm-hmm.
And I know she was very enthusiastic
She
about it,
was.
and I'm sure Judge Gill, who is now presiding, is enthusiastic as we were.
We'd love to have all of you if we are able to do it again. But yes, both Judge Marquez and Judge Gill were very passionate too about both of the National Adoption Day and family reunification. So, is there any family that stands out to you, or any story that you recall that you were just particularly remembering? There's probably so many, huh?
There was one family that had a very tragic start to their story. One of the children had died. And it was one of those, you're thinking,
how's this going
to, and you learn about the inner family dynamics, and you got one partner that was determined and did all the work, and eventually the other partner is just out of the picture. And so when you see that, you know that the role that everybody played in making that happen, that's the kind of story that
it worked out. That's good.
And there's probably another aspect to it that's beyond the jurisdiction of the court and beyond the jurisdiction of any agency involved. Is I know, like, for people that survive the trauma of cancer, you have follow-ups. Even though you're free and clear, you still have checkups.
Yes.
And I don't know how it could be done, and that's why I'm saying it's just something that there's somehow the families could kind of check in every now and then, say, hey, we're still together,
right?
Or we're starting to have these kind of problems. Although there's no mandatory way to get people to participate in that,
right? Just little tune-ups, huh?
Just some kind of if there was a way to say, we'd like to check in. We'd like for you to check in with us.
Yeah.
But I'm sure some of them are saying, hey,
they're done with us by that
time. I don't
Yeah.
ever want to see you guys again. And you can't blame them.
No, you can't blame them. But you're right. I think during the process of getting to that point, it would be nice if they had a relationship with an agency that could then follow up with them. Not maybe us, but like not maybe in the court, maybe Cap K or city server. Right. That's I like that. That would be a good idea.
Just, hey, how you doing? It's been whatever amount of time it's been.
We just want to make sure you're okay.
Just let you know, we're not forcing you to do anything, but
do you need any help?
If you need any help,
that's good.
Just we're all in this together.
Exactly.
And,
we are. Well, I'm so glad that you started the idea, and I hope that we can continue to make sure we honor those folks and that they're open with us. And we're hoping to talk to another family during this month that was successful. So,
well, it's always good to have success. And if there is, if they get through the program and then they relapse,
right,
they need to know that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's
it sometimes happens,
but
doesn't it? Yeah.
It's don't think you've failed.
Right. Yes.
Just let's get started and let's get this done, and
let's work together.
Because the end of the story is your children are going to be out in the community. They're going to have their own families, and they know what the struggles were growing up. And we hope they've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. They can learn from you on how to resolve issues and move forward. So,
and the first teacher in our lives is our parents, our mother, our fathers. And
that's true.
And if you're fortunate enough to have both in your life and they stay cohesive throughout your maturing years, I mean, you're way ahead of the game right there.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
all we can do to help that model.
Mm-hmm.
we
Yep. That's what
should-
we're all here to do.
That's what we
You're
should
right.
be doing.
We're all in it together. So I thank you so much for being our guest today, Judge Vega. And we appreciate that you're still part of the community. You're still, serving in different capacities.
Well, my wife and I have been in the community. I've been here since 1971, and I remarried in 1994, and my wife joined me in this community. She loves it as much as I do, and now our daughter is.
Now your daughter, Raquel.
She's in grad school, and
she's lovely.
Right, and think she might want to be back here too.
Yeah.
But wherever her life takes her, she has our blessings. But
that's great that you've trained her well, and she's going to probably be serving the community too. So,
like I told you before we started, I came here for a year back in 1971,
and here it is, 2022.
Isn't this crazy?
And you're still here, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
So again, thank you for being our guest today, and we hope that you enjoy this broadcast. That's all for today.
All right, thank you.
I'm your co-host Paula Hernandez, and in today's Mindful Minute, we'll be talking about apps. Part of taking a mindful minute is figuring out when to actually take them. It happens too often. You find yourself hard at work on a project, and next thing you know, you've been sitting at the computer for 2 hours, and the only thing you have moved is your eyes and fingers. Maybe that's a little dramatic, but nonetheless, maybe you still need that little reminder to stand up, drink water, or do some mindful breathing. I found it really helpful that my Apple Watch comes with a move feature that requires me to move at least 1 minute per hour during 12 different hours in the day. So if you're interested in taking a mindful minute, here are some apps you can try. There's the Move Daily Activity to Stay Healthy app, and then the Stand Up, the Work Break Timer app that are both iOS and free. And lastly, for all you Android users, there is the Randomly Remind Me app, also free. There's so many options out there, so pick the best one that fits your needs. This has been your Mindful Minute.
Thank you for joining us for the Heartbeat of Human Services podcast today. We hope you'll join us next time.